What's up, homies? It's me, that dude, Willie D. And today, I'm bringing you a video that has been asked for numerous times by the homies in the Twitch chat. So here it is for your enjoyment. Willie D's ultimate Trav Barb Hort guide for Horking. Good. Boy, we gotta work on that title. You know, I'm gonna preface this video by saying I am a Diablo 2 superfan, and I have horked Travincal more times than you can shake a Wirt's leg at. But I'm here to tell you that I am in no way, shape, or form a Diablo 2 expert. I can and will get things wrong. I can and will forget to include things. So if those things ever happen amidst these videos, get off my back! I am truly sorry and apologize for the inconvenience. And we are currently amidst, I gotta say, well over 5,000 Travincal runs live over on Twitch, and we are giving away anything and everything that drops from those runs. And everyone that gets picked also gets a spin on our loot wheel. So if you guys want to go ahead and hop over on Twitch sometime, come see us, come take some of this loot home. Lots and lots of tasty stuff going out to the homies. Like, check out this ring right here. This thing was insane. Wow. That is a ring and a half right there. Lots of nice jewels and charms and runes that have been dropping, so anything good that drops, it's going home with you. All right, now on to what we've been waiting for. Let's talk about this Barbino here. I'm going to show you everything on my current endgame Barb, his weapons, his skills, attributes, resistances, gold find, MF, all the stats that you're going to want to know about. I also don't personally use a mercenary for Travincal. Some people do, some people don't. I am one of those people that don't, but I will go over what people tend to like to use for a mercenary, and I'll kind of give you my input on how I feel about those items. These Barb builds that you're about to see as well can be used on softcore and hardcore, depending on how you play and how you see fit. Only thing I would recommend for softcore is maybe taking your time on trying to find some of these things and really focusing on survivability, resistances, all that kind of stuff. But we'll go over that later when we're talking about what you can be using for budget gear, as opposed to just endgame gear like enigmas and griefs and all that fun stuff. Also, for those that might not know, you can increase your MF all you want, but MF actually doesn't help you find runes. Runes have nothing to do with MF, so the more you boost that, it's not going to help you find more runes, unfortunately. You really want to focus on killing speed, because the more things you kill, the more chances you have at finding a good rune. All right, well, with that, my friends, let's take a look at the Barb over here, shall we? Let's take a look. So this is my Barbino getting ready to, you know, take out Travincal here. Let's take a look at his loadout and his items, and I'll show you what he's rocking with. So obviously, endgame Barb, we are rocking the double grief over here, 37,356, 37,384. Griefs are really, really hard to deny. The power that they possess is kind of insane. There's plenty of other weapons that you can use, but at the end of the day, the flat damage that the grief has, right here, it says damage 384. That's not a percentage. That is flat damage. So that is just putting out just a workhorse of hurt on all these Travincal cronies. So they really don't like these griefs, let me tell you what. Over here for the Enigma, we got the Enigma in the Mage Plate. Kind of hard to say no to an Enigma. 2 to all skills, faster run walk, a bunch of MF on it as well. Life after kill, damage goes to mana. I mean, what can you say? What can you really say? It's really hard to deny an Enigma. It's so doggone good. 69 to strength. Nice. So that's what we're rocking there. High Lords over here. The increased attack speed and lightning, not really too worried about any of that, but the deadly strike, that deadly strike is pretty nice, kind of helping you increase your kill speed and clear out Travincal just as quick as you can so you can get in for the next run. Over here, War Travs. War Travs are really nice, obviously for the MF. Mine are only 40s, perfect would be 50s. Honestly, the little boost of damage on here adds 15 to 25 damage. Any more damage that you can get on your guy is always nice, you know what I mean? So this is what we're rocking over here. For the ring, we got a dual leech ring, and I gotta say of this whole thing, the griefs are where the power comes from, but this is what really makes this whirlwind Barb work for me. The mana leech and the life leech just keeps me alive the whole time when I'm spinning, and that is pretty fantastic. So that right there, combined with a little more life leech here on my Ariat's face. I have an Ariat's face up here. It's only a 3%, so that combined with that gives me about 9 life leech. keeps me plenty alive. And I'll show you guys a little run of Trav here as well to show you what's actually going on. I also have a Cham rune inside the Aureate's face for the Cannot Be Frozen. There's plenty of options for Cannot Be Frozen as well if you can't find a Cham rune, which I will go over later. Down here, we got the gold wrap on him as well, a little bit of MF and a little bit of extra gold. Can't go wrong with a gold wrap. Over here, we got the Dwarf Star. We got a Dwarf Star for some Fire Absorb, Magic Absorb, extra gold, just kind of nice for doing Trav, obviously, because lots of fire going on there. Little chunk of life on there too. And this is actually a perfect Dwarf Star, so shout out to that. Last but not least, we got the Laying of Hands over here. Laying of Hands. Increased damage to demons. Travincal enemies are in fact demons, so that is a good thing to have on you. And then a big chunk of fire res. Again, you're dealing with the Travincal boys. They like their fire, and that 50 chunk will help you out nicely. Over here, I got for the Horking / item find is the Alibabas. We got the Alibabas, double-isted Alibabas. If you don't have the ist runes, again, Alibabas have inherent MF, which would be plenty to get you where you need to be. So the ists are just a little bit of extra. As far as my charms are concerned here for the Barbarino, over here we got a Warcry's 36 to gold, which we just got the other day. We got a Combat Barb here, Warcry 6 Dex, Combat Barb here, and I got a Geeds 95 12 40. Gotta love that 40 MF. Small charms, we got a 20 to life, 7 MF, 5 all res, 7 MF, 10 cold res, and 10 poison res with some faster run walk. The Annie is a 2610, and the Torch is a 1719. So those are the charms that are on the Barb. So you can obviously, you know, go in and out with sharp charms that have like the max damage, the attack rating, and the life if you can find those. I haven't been lucky enough to find any decent ones that are worth carrying. Anything with, if you want to keep boosting your MF, if you want to keep boosting your gold, whatever you want to do, keep stacking it up. I personally like to have places to be able to pick up loot. It's really annoying to always be full, so I try to leave at least these two open, and I also have the cube to kind of toss things in as well. So that's my charms. Lucky charms, they're magically delicious. MF actually has diminishing returns. When I'm horking the bodies, I have 523 MF and 773 gold. And I gotta say, I am never hurting for gold. I am constantly gambling and trying to get rid of it as fast as I can. Some people like to have gold find barbs. They like to have their 6 not Alibabas, but phase blades, just going to town on the gold. But I gotta say, I get plenty, more than I could ever possibly need or want with this kind of build setup. So it's up to you how much gold you want. If you want to increase that, decrease that, whatever you got to do. Just try to keep in mind that when you increase your MF or your gold, you could be taking away from your damage output, which makes your runs take longer, and therefore you see, you know, less runes over time. So over here for the attributes, you know, you really want to focus on strength. I think the highest strength requirement I've got here is probably the Aureate's face, 118 strength on the Aureate's face. And then over here, dexterity, you're going to need 136 for your phase blades. So you go over here and make those adjustments accordingly. My attributes are, I'm going to be honest, I don't min-max. I'm just not that kind of guy. I'm more focused on chat and stuff when I'm live. So I could, you know, try to re-roll for perfect griefs. I could try to, you know, get everything min-maxed on the attributes. But I honestly don't care. This thing wrecks just fine. I have no issues with it. So it works for me. Other than that, I pour everything into vitality, nothing into energy. And this is actually what my resistances look like. Cold, not really worried about cold when I'm doing Trav. Poison, again, there's some poison from the little snake monsters that are in the water there, but don't need to worry about them too much. Your life leech pretty much keeps you alive that whole time. But the lightning or fire res here, obviously we're off the charts with the fire and a bunch of lightning here too, so we're good to go there. So that's your resistances, your MF, and your gold. And now for the skills, guys. Let me show you here what skills we're rocking on the Barbino. Got to get into Howl, Shout to get down to Battle Orders and Battle Command. You max the Battle Orders, and that's really the only one that you max for those shouts right there. Battle Orders, you max, everything else just 1. I skip the Taunt, Battle Cry, and War Cry, don't use them at all, and I also don't use Grim Ward. Over here, this is your Hork. We call it Horking, but the actual skill's name is Find Item. And this is what happens when you're looking for your items. You use this right here. We call it Horking because that's the sound he makes. He goes, hork, 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 hork. It kind of sounds like horking. So there you go. That's what it is. Now you know. I bet you feel smarter. Find Potion is a synergy for find item. You get 1% chance per level for every point that you find into, or that you put into Find Potion. And the thing with this works is synergies will not work. What does that mean? If you are getting points from an item, they are not going to count toward that. Only hard points that you invest, giggity, that will reflect the bonuses that you receive right there for that synergy there. So that's how you got to do that. Got to be hard points into it. So 75% chance is the highest percentage that you can get for your find item. It can't go any higher than that. So once you get there, you're good to go. Personally, when I'm investing in a find item, I go all the way into find item until it stops giving me a full percentage point, and then I just start investing into Find Potion. That's how I do it. Some people don't do it that way. If you don't do it that way, that's all right. We can coexist together. I love it. All right, moving on to Combat Mastery. We got the Phase Blades. That's all I'm rocking, so that's where all my points are at. Phase Blade Mastery right there. And then I got 1 point into each of these. You got your increased stamina, your Iron Skin, increased speed, and natural resistance. 1, 1, 1, and 1. Beautiful. On to the combat skills. You got 1 into doggone everything here. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, all the way down. You max your Whirlwind, and you do also put 1 into Berserk. You don't need 1 into Berserk to get to Whirlwind, but you want the Berserk for your physical immunes. When you're doing these trav runs, there's always going to be the one that's got the physical immune, and this right here lets you punch him in the face until he dies from it. It's a very, very useful skill. So that right there is your skills. That's how I have it loaded out. If you want to tweak it in any way, shape, or form, feel free. But that is what Willie D is currently rocking on his Trav Barb. Okay, now I'm going to give you a demonstration of what it looks like when you do a Trav run. You're going to shout. You're going to shout. What 2 shouts did I just use? I used Battle Command and Battle Orders, 1 of each. Boom, boom. And from here, you can teleport or you can run, whatever you want to do. But honestly, from here, I hold left click and I just kind of move my mouse around, man. It is super mindless. And honestly, it's really good for a streamer like me. Helps me focus on Twitch chat and keeping up with the homies. And then you'll get to guys like this with the physical immune, and that's when your Berserk skill comes in. And then you swap to the Alibabas, and you hork, 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 hork. You got to hork all day, baby. And then you take a look at your findings and see what you got here. So we got a Small Charm off the rip. We got a Glaive we'll check out. Small Charm's garbage. Thought we had a Glaive there. There it is. And no IDs. Worst Trav run ever. Increased stack size. Nothing there. I'll check out, make sure there's nothing else. Sometimes you need to zoom in to really see things because they can really pile on the loot here in Travincal. They really, really pile it on. Last run there and nothing. So then you just go ahead, save and exit. You add another one on and you hop right back in. That's Trav runs, baby. It's that easy. And I gotta tell you, you're gonna have plenty, and I mean plenty, of dry spells. It happens. It's called RNG. It's just the way it goes. But it will happen, and when it does happen, store those happy memories and feelings away for the dry season. Now, you might be asking yourself, Willie, how do I level my barb? I want to get to Horking just like you, but gosh doggone it, it sure is hard to level this Barbarian. Well, first I'd ask you, where are you playing? Are you playing single player? Single players have a really, really nice opportunity to increase the player count whenever they want, which is pretty dang nice, I gotta say. That is going to help you get your XP and just get rocking and rolling. When it comes to leveling, you got 1 through 15. You want to be clearing out Tristram. Just Tristram runs all the way through. From 15 to 24, you want to go ahead and hop over to Talrash's tombs and clear those out until you're about 24. Once you hit that, you're going to head over to Act 5 and go ahead and head on down to Bale and hit Rite of Passage. You're going to kill the Barbarians, clear that out, and it'll hit you at 25. And once you're 25, your XP will just start skyrocketing to the moon. It's pretty great. So once you hit 25, Bale runs or Chaos runs, or once you kill Bale, you'll actually open up something called Terror Zones. If you're new to D2R, Terror Zones are something new that they added. It's a up scaled version of whatever area that happens to be terrorized. It rotates every hour. You know, might be the Bloodmoor, might be Travincal, might be Chaos Sanctuary. And what it does is it makes whoever the host of that particular game is, it makes it reflect their level +2. So if you're in there at level 91, all enemies will be scaled to level 93, and they'll drop that level of loot, which makes finding things like Arachnid Mesh, Griffin's Eye, all the endgame loot that's hard to find, except for specific bosses. TerraZones really have brought that to the forefront to make it a lot easier finding that kind of stuff. So you can also utilize that to level up your Barbarian, because you'll be getting way more experience from those high-level enemies. So once you're 25 to 40 and all the way through, once you hit 40, you can hit your Nightmare Rite of Passage and take out your Nightmare Bale, and then grind there as well until you're level 60. And then once you're 60, you go do your Hell Rite of Passage. And then from there, baby, you just finish your leveling and you're on to the Horking. It is that simple. If you are on ladder, you know, there's plenty of public games where people do bail runs and things like that, group XP grinding, things of that sort. So you really got to get into one of those games, and that's what helps you. For me, myself, when I'm doing this kind of stuff, we receive what's called a G-Rush, and it gets me from level 1 to level where I need to be pretty doggone quick. So the community is always helpful for those kinds of things, for getting the Trav Barb up and rocking. So I leech. That's what I do. But yeah, a Barb is notoriously lagging when it comes to leveling, especially if you're on single player. The Barb lacks the AoE attacks, and then just in general, physical damage just needs some help in this game. It really does. But, you know, conversely, that provides a nice little challenge for people that like that kind of thing in this game, because you can absolutely get through the game with a physical Barb. It's just got a bit of a challenge to it. Casters are undeniably easier, and some say more fun, and that's totally up to you, but some people like that challenge. So if you do, Barb might be right up your alley. But yes, if you are a single player, you know, start out with your double swing and your leap until you're able to level enough to be able to use Warcry. And then from there, you can use the Warcry AoE to maybe do some spamming, farming of the Frigid Waypoint, Eldritch and Shank up there, or maybe even Pindle on normal. And that'll really help you get some levels there too, normal or even Hell, or Nightmare rather, not Hell. Those can drop really great stuff too. They all have the double drop on them, which is really nice and can help you gear up as well. I personally don't play single player. I recognize how great it is. I love the static maps for farming, being able to adjust your player count. That's great. But being a streamer, you know, I try to make sure that I'm able to play multiplayer as often as I can with the homies in chat. All right, now let's get on to budget items, because hey, not everybody can afford griefs and enigmas and all this fun stuff. So what the heck else can you use in the meantime until you can get some fun stuff to use? Well, I'm gonna go over some things. Here we go. Check it out. Here's the weapon list. From the weapons, you can make things like a Lawbringer. Lawbringer only takes the runes Am, Lem, and Co. You can make an Oath rune word, which is a Shale Pull Maul Lum. There's a Lightsaber. There's an Unbending Will, which is Fall Io Itheld El Hell. Or you could even use a Jin Slayer if you want to. There's plenty of options out there. There really is. You don't have to use a grief. Things with Crushing Blow could really help, maybe like a black rune word. Thol Io Neff, that's always nice. So there are different options out there for things to use. Griefs doesn't have to be the only thing. Some people do like the Breath of the Dying over a grief because it has Life Leech and Mono Leech on it as well. Personally, I've tried both of them, and I gotta say grief just outperforms. It's just the grief has the damage. It's really hard to argue against a grief. I'm tired of using griefs all the time, as much as everybody else is, but it's hard to deny how good a grief is. That damage is crazy. Now for your offhands, obviously you saw that I had the Alibabas. Alibabas aren't too terribly hard to come by, I wouldn't think. You don't necessarily need to have the Ist runes in them, but if you wanted something else in the meantime for getting around, you might want to look into maybe some heart carvers, double heart carvers, which would increase your item finding if you're not quite, you know, leveled up all the way on your tree. You could also use, if you want some FCR output, maybe you're doing like pit zerking or something like that with your Hork Barb. Maybe you want to use double suicide branches or double Wizzy spikes. Those are always an option as well. Give you that FCR so you can tool around really quick and get to where you're going. I myself personally doing these Travincal runs, I'm not worried about FCR. I only got to go so far to get to them, so for me, it is not really a priority. Now on to the helm. I was using an Ariat's Face, and I guess I would always recommend you try finding an Ariat's Face whenever you can, because that is super great to have for a Barb. But In case you don't have that, there are plenty of other options that you can go for. Obviously, a lore, you can start making that pretty doggone early. It does fall off toward the end, obviously. Not much lightning going on in Travincal, but it's an option. It does give you 1 to all skills, which will increase your damage, increase your item find, and all that fun stuff, your BO, so that's an option there. There's also Guillaume's Face, if you want to use that, a little G-Face action, a little Crushing Blow. Crushing Blow is always nice to help take them down. Even the Immortal King's Will Avenger Guard. That has plenty of MF on that too, and plus to War Cries, that's pretty nice too, until you can get yourself an Ariad's Face, or maybe even you pop on a Shaco. Shacos are wonderful as well. Bunch of MF, bunch of life, bunch of mana. You can't say no to a Shaco. I mean, you can. You can say no, Shaco. Besides Shaco, maybe even a Tarn Helm. Tarn Helm for that, you know, poor man's Shaco. Get that MF going on. 50 MF is the max on the Tarn Helm. You could also use a Rock Stopper. Rock Stopper giving you that nice resistance. That's always good. If you ever get lucky enough to find a Chamrune, you can always pop a Chamrune into one of these bad boys and get yourself some of that Cannot Be Frozen. Very, very useful. Something to note though, when you're doing these Travincal runs, there's going to be an enemy more times than not that has a cold aura. And you have to understand, when he slows you down, that's you being slowed. That's not you being frozen. So when you're like, I have Cannot Be Frozen, why is it doing that? Well, you're technically not being frozen, you're being slowed. Not much of a difference, but to the game, apparently there is. So, just so you're aware. On to amulets. Amulets, you got lots of different choices. Like we said, we're using the High Lords on my current character for that Deadly Strike, but there's plenty of other options. Crescent Moon is a solid choice if you can get your hands on one of those. It's got the leech on there to help keep you alive. It's fantastic. And Eye of Etlich is even fine with the plus to skills. Metal Grid for the resistances. I mean, you honestly can't go wrong. Whatever amulet you can find to help keep you alive, maybe give you a bit of MF or maybe some skills, whatever you can get your hands on, that would be the one to use. But if and when you can, High Lords will be where you probably eventually want to end up for that Deadly Strike. That is pretty doggone nice to have. Now, on to the Love Gloves. For gloves, I am using the Lay of Hands. Obviously, Laying of Hands with the extra damage to demons, big old chunk of fire res. Can't say no to that. But again, plenty of other options in the world if you want to branch out and try some new things. Chansies. Everybody loves Chansies. People like Max and their MF. They put their MF through the roof. I myself think that there's diminishing returns, and 500 and some MF is plenty for me. But if you want to max yours out, gosh darn it, you go for it. I hope it's great. But Chansies are definitely a favorite amongst the Barbarians, getting that little bit of MF on there. So good luck horking something good with them Chansies. There's also Sanders. Sanders gloves that you can use, or even Blood Fists that you can use. Plenty of different options for gloves, for keeping yourself alive, getting the life leech going on, any of that kind of stuff. So gloves. Go for Laying of Hands though. They're pretty easy to find, especially if you're doing Trav. I swear they drop like every 10 runs or so. So you got to take care of those feet, man. Those feet are carrying you around everywhere on these Hork runs. You better take care of them feet, baby. So we got the War Travs going on. You got the MF on the War Travs, and that's always fine. But on the War Travs, it also has the added damage, which is super, super nice. Anything else for boots, maybe Gore Riders. Gore Riders could be really nice. Faster Run Walk and Crushing Blow. Those are always great. Water Walks for some life and some whatnot. Plenty of options for booties, but honestly, Travs are pretty hard to beat, especially for that damage. Inferno Strides are pretty solid as well. Inferno Strides got the survivability with the fire. Maybe you don't have the Laying of Hands yet, and you need a little bit of fire survivability, so Inferno Strides are great too. They got the gold on there as well, so definitely not a bad option for Trav. Armor. Okay, so Enigma, obviously, very expensive. Very useful and very good, but very expensive. So what other options could you use? Well, if you're trying to do your MF, maybe a Skulder's Ire. Everyone likes boosting that MF when you're doing Travincal. Skulders is an option there. There's also the Wealth. A Wealth is always really nice. That's a Lemco tier. And that rune word is, fairly easy to make. Lems aren't that expensive, I would say. But they're definitely an option for you to use, so maybe check that out. There's a Duress, there's a Smoke, a Lionheart, all kinds of rune words that you could use to kind of get you through until you can get to an Enigma. Some people like using Fortitudes on their mercenaries, or they might even want to use it on their barbs because of the enhanced damage, but you got to look at it and see that it also has cold damage. You don't want the cold damage, because when you shatter your bodies, you can't hork the bodies. And if you can't hork the bodies, that makes your hork barb very sad. You don't want to make your hork barb sad. And that's another thing too, as far as it comes to mercenaries. A lot of people like putting on a Reaper's Toll on their mercenary for doing Travincal because it has the Decrepify. And I gotta say, you gotta be careful with that too, because again, you can shatter the bodies. The Reaper's Toll has cold damage on it as well. So, not good for hork barbs. If you are berserking, you might need a shield. Maybe you are leveling up with your single player barb trying to stay alive and you're using a shield, or maybe you are in hardcore and you want some more survivability. It's really, really hard to say no to a Rime shield. Rime shields are probably one of my favorite shields in the game. Obviously, spirit shields are really strong too, but man, Rime just gives you a little bit of everything. It's got MF that cannot be frozen, is fantastic. So if that's something that you're trying to do, Rime is definitely a way to go. It's nice and cheap, got great survivability for you. A little bit of MF. Can't go wrong with the MF. So on to the belts. You got to keep your pants up when you're doing these hork runs. And I am using the gold wrap. Everybody likes the MF and the gold on those. That's always nice. Some people like to use an arachnid mesh on their barbarian for faster cast rate and all skills. That's always nice as well. Maybe you're doing that for a pit zerker. Personally, for me, I don't really, care one way or another for the arachnid mesh on my personal barb. So that's up to you. I use the gold wrap. To up your belt is a tall rune, a shale rune, and a perfect diamond. And then you can fit 4 more potions in it. Love that. On to other belts though, besides the gold wrap, besides the arachnid mesh, what other belts can you use? Well, I gotta tell you, Trang's belt is a fantastic belt for barbs. A bunch of fun stuff on it, but mostly that cannot be frozen. If you can't find any other source of cannot be frozen, that is definitely a great option. So check that out. Also, T-God's belt, Thunder God's belt is fantastic for the strength, vitality. That is great for them too. Lightning Absorb doesn't really help them that much in Travincal necessarily. More fire than anything there, but it's an option to keep your pants up. Now on to the jewelry, the rings. Ravenfrost would be very tempting to use. Ravenfrost would be very tempting to use, but I gotta tell you, don't use it for the cannot be frozen. It's got cold damage on it. Turn back now! You don't want to shatter your bodies. You need to hork them bodies. Don't shatter them. Dwarf stars. Dwarf stars are huge in Trav. It's undeniable. Bunch of gold, bunch of life, fire res. I don't know where you're going to go wrong there. Dual leech ring would be what I would recommend. Dual leech rings are incredible. It's what keeps me alive. It's one of my favorite parts of this build. A dual leech ring just makes the whole thing work. So I definitely recommend that. Or like I said, any kind of mono leech that you can get so you can keep whirlwinding through this will just keep your barb a lot happier. Otherwise, if you're not worried about survivability or any of that nonsense, maybe you need some more FCR on a ring, or maybe you just want some more MF. Nagel rings are always nice for a little bit of MF if that's what you're trying to do. That's rings. That's what I would recommend if I were me. For your offhands, we talked about the Alibabas, 2 Ist runes in either Alibaba. That's always nice, always very useful. You do not need to use Alibabas. You do not need to have Ist runes. There's plenty of other options. Some people will use double spirits. Double spirits are always okay, because when you have the double spirits out, it gives you +2/+2 to your skill. So it's +4 to your skills. So if you haven't completely upgraded your find item or any of that, that'll kind of boost that when you're doing your horking as well. So you do have options. But I do know some people like to do their 6 Isted phase blades, 6 lemmed phase blades. Those are options as well. But like I said, the MF has diminishing returns on it. So really, as long as you're not cutting into your damage, that's what you want to focus on. Do not sacrifice damage for more MF, in my personal opinion. You want to kill faster so you can get more drops. That's the goal here. So keep your damage high and try to raise your MF as much as you can without dropping that damage. That's Willie D's personal opinion. If you disagree, that's okay. That's fine. That's what makes this world a wonderful place. As far as Trav mercenaries go, like I said, I don't use a mercenary. I do all the killing myself. He uses all the gold that I find to resurrect him. It's just not necessary. I don't use them. I don't need them. Some people like it, and if you do what you got to do. But like I said, Be careful about putting any cold damage on your mercenary. The fortitude, the Reaper's Toll, it will shatter bodies. Never a good idea. A really good weapon for your mercenary that's not a Reaper's Toll would probably be a Pride rune word, but that's a very, very expensive rune word. So you might want to just roll with an insight. Roll with an insight for now. Roll it in the highest base you possibly can, like a Thresher or a Cryptic Axe, maybe even a Great Pole Axe, whatever you can find. It's one of those late game pole axe bases, and just make an insight for some damage if you really must have it. Kira's and Guardian's Angel will help to keep your mercenary alive. Ethereal is always obviously preferential, because if you didn't already know, mercenaries do not consume durability. So Ethereal is perfect for them. So throw your Eth items on your mercenary. But those would be the things that you would use for your barb for any survivability. Maybe some Vamp Gaze to keep them alive, for some Life Leech if you can't find a Kira's. For an armor, maybe a Duress or a Smoke. Those would be some pretty decent options as well, just to keep them alive. But like I said, you really don't need the mercenary. So it's up to you if you want to use one. And that's going to do it, guys. That's the end of the video. Thank you again so much for watching. Trav Barbs, Horking is always a good time. I'm a big fan, and I hope you are now too. If you ever have any comments or questions, feel free to join us live on Twitch. We'd be happy to answer you. Between myself and the very helpful community that's there, we will get you taken care of. But until next time, peace, homies.